Welcome back to Pausa. It's Wednesday, April 12th, and we've got some great Champions League action to recap, but that's not all we've got to talk about today. Stay tuned, we got a bunch of topics to cover. Let's dive in. First up, we've got the far and away the game of the day, which was Manchester City over Bayern Munich. And don't be fooled by the 3-0 score in Man City's favor. This was actually a really hard-fought game. It was a close game. Maybe not in the box score, but Pep even said after the game, I think a reporter suggested that it was an easy victory, and he sort of scoffed and said, "Nah, this was not easy." This was actually a relatively even matchup. Bayern did what they do and fought for possession. They really made City work for everything they got. They were hard-fought goals. In the end, City's talent won over. Bayern didn't have their full complement of talent out on the field. Sadio Mane came on as a substitute, so he did not get a start. But great matchup. This could have been a final or at least a semi-final. These are two clearly of the three best teams, along with Real Madrid, that are left in the Champions League. And this game delivered everything that it possibly could have, and it really just showed the quality of Manchester City. Erling Haaland gets a goal, but also had a great assist on a cross. Forget the talk about how many touches he gets a game. It's just so ridiculous. He contributes in so many ways. Bayern had their chances, but credit Manchester City's defense, which was absolutely phenomenal. John Stones playing in that holding midfield spot, but then would drop back into the center back spot the way they used to do with Fernandinho. So really interesting tactics by Pep. Just a masterclass performance across the board from City. Thomas Tuchel could not get the guys up for that. You can't really blame him. He's been there a week. But this game was everything we hoped for, despite a 3-0 score, and it's going to make it tough to go back, for Bayern to go, even going back home to overcome this. So City did what they needed to do, and they remain in just tremendous form moving forward. In the other Champions League match of the day yesterday, we saw one of the real beauties of the Champions League, which is its ability to help a club and a player make up for an otherwise disappointing season. And that appears to be what's happening with both Inter Milan and their star, I use that term loosely, striker Romelu Lukaku, who scored for Inter Milan in their 2-0 victory over Benfica on Tuesday. Inter Milan is not having a great season. They sit 5th in Serie A. It's definitely a disappointment for them. And one of the main reasons for that disappointment is the subpar performance of Romelu Lukaku, who is on loan from Chelsea after being a disappointment there, and was supposed to be, brought back to life in Serie A, where he had sort of already been brought back to life after other disappointments, and he's simply not having a good season. He has 3 goals in all of Serie A. He now, after Tuesday, has 3 goals in the Champions League in only 4 matches, only 4 games played, and he has not started any of those games. He has been brought on as a sub 4 times in the Champions League for Inter Milan this year, and he has scored in 3 of those games. There's no real explanation for this. There's no strategic rhyme or reason as to why this is happening. It just is. I mean, maybe the Champions League lights a fire under him and he needs that motivation. I don't know. But it's fascinating. It's fascinating to see. And let me tell you, if Inter Milan makes the Champions League semi-finals, boy, it really takes a lot of the sting out of finishing 5th in Serie A. Now, not enough to make up for not making the Champions League next year, but it sure does help. And so these sorts of games are always fascinating to watch because it gives an otherwise despondent fan base something to cheer about. And so good for the Inter Milan fans. Sorry for the Benfica fans. It's only 2-0 after that leg, so Benfica's still in it. But really fascinating to see the way Inter Milan is putting together a Champions League run, behind, super sub Romelu Lukaku, which is so the opposite of how they drew things up this year. The biggest non-on-pitch news from yesterday were the reports that came out that says Liverpool is no longer going to be in the running and are no longer interested in Jude Bellingham. And there's two real key points I want to unpack here. The first two things I thought about. One is, and there was some alluding to the fact that Liverpool needs more than just one star player, and that they could take the 100 or 150 million euros that it's going to take to get Jude Bellingham, and it's going to be some massive number, and they could get 2, 3, 4, 5 star to contributing quality level players for that, and that Liverpool needs that, and that's probably the right strategy. They are probably at this point not one Jude Bellingham away from competing the way some other teams are. Certainly not away from winning. Jude Bellingham might be enough to get them back in the top 4, but if they really want to win the Premier League, they are not one star player away. They need more help than that. So they seem to have come to the realization that I personally think they should have come to last year when they went after Darwin Nunez for an exorbitant amount of money and could have made him 2 or 3 contributing players. I think it sounds like they are realizing that that's going to be the method that they have to take this summer in the transfer market. But I have to wonder here, how much of this is just self-preservation and avoiding embarrassment to claim that they are no longer interested in Jude Bellingham, and at the same token, how much of this is really the fact that Jude Bellingham may not have any interest in Liverpool at this point. Jude Bellingham was playing Champions League football with Dortmund, and he is going to be pursued. He is already being pursued by other upper echelon Champions League teams, not just any old Champions League teams, but Manchester City and Real Madrid and the cream of the crop who seem to have interest in him because he's that level of player. He's going to be the top target on the market for the best of the best of the best. And frankly, Liverpool just does not fall into that category right now. They're not going to be playing Champions League football next year, it doesn't look like. At the moment, they may not be playing Europa League football. And so I wonder if behind the scenes they said, you know what? Even if we wanted to, and even if we had unlimited resources, we can't get this guy. He doesn't want to come here anymore. I wonder if somebody from Jude Bellingham's camp said, hey, it's looking like you guys are going to miss the top 4. We're taking him off the table. We don't want you. And so they got ahead of this in the media and came out and said, yeah, I think we're going to take a different approach this summer and spread our money around, and we're no longer interested in Jude Bellingham, sort of the way I'm no longer interested in Heidi Klum, right? Because it's a very realistic possibility that were to ever happen. So I wonder how much of this is self-preservation on the part of Liverpool, in addition to what I think should be a more viable strategy. So nevertheless, it appears that Liverpool and Jude Bellingham are no longer going to be a match, but hey, the summer is still far away and anything can happen. What are we watching today? Well, this isn't tough. It's the other leg of the Champions League quarterfinals. We've got AC Milan taking on Serie A runaways Napoli, and then we've got Real Madrid hosting Chelsea. At Madrid, that's so tough. Can Chelsea come to life under the lights of the Champions League the way they have not been able to in the Premier League this year? Who knows? Stranger things have happened. That's the beauty of the Champions League. Thanks for joining us on La Pausa here at Pints and Punditry. As always, this is Total FIFA Career Mode.